Hello, hello. Okay, we're going to start with the second half. We're going to start with fiction again in this half, and it's from John Saul. And John's fiction was published in the Dalkey Archives Best European Fiction in 2018, representing fiction from England. His fourth collection of short fiction was published in 2025 by Confingo Publishing, and his work has been published recently in The Stinging Fly and in Best British Short Stories of 2023, and he is a member of the European Literature Network. So to read from his story, would you please welcome John Saul.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me here. I'm very pleased to be here. I'm told there is an Irish saying, a toast, which says, read it so I don't make a mistake, "May your home always be too small to hold your friends." I don't know where this originates, but it's relevant to what I'm about to read, because what I'm about to read is about the wish for having a larger house. And it involves neighbours, and one neighbour who wants to, plans to, and goes ahead with a large-scale building project, and as anybody knows, if one neighbour objects to what the other neighbour is doing, it can be very stressful. And the title of the piece is called 157, 157, and that number is arrived at by looking at all the difficulties that the person objecting runs into, all the emails, phone calls with the council, the architects, the party wall surveyors, as they're sometimes called. These 157 objections, I'm not going to read at all about 156 of them, which will shorten things considerably, but to read about the other missing one. 157. The decibels, the dust, the trauma, low on a universal scale, far below the level of slavery, the Dust Bowl, the Titanic, but a trauma. The horror story responsible is the brainchild of the Browns next door. The bone-pounding construction of a monumental rear extension, a Botoxed house. Birdsong is being replaced by pile drivers and jackhammers. Sunlight with cement dust. As the walls rise to form the monstrosity, flakes of stone and concrete zing from electric saws, and when all is done, on top will come the final indignity, a stupid, twirling weather vane. Everyone has been such a disappointment. The Browns, I choke at the thought of them. The council officers too, the architects, the inspectors, such disappointments. The result, together, these wretched instances of humanity drove me down, down into the depths. From there, I did the unexpected. I bought a surveyor fish. I gave it a tank to swim in, with gravel and warm waters, gently lit and aerated day and night. It was clearly of a noble species, with its fiery red trunk and feathery black fins in fine combed lines. Overwhelmed by the glory of this creation, I took a while to see past the dazzle. But as if guessing something was up, the fish had from the beginning a startled look. I looked into its history. Its forebears started out in northeast Mexico, and now this offspring found itself in cold and clammy latitudes. That may have had something to do with that alarmed expression, the constant darts and flits about the tank. That's enough about the fish. As usual, I could hardly hear myself think. The tank vibrated as the builders bored and thundered into the murderously hard ground, excavating great pits for the foundations to their brainless, monstrous, fuck you rear extension. Fuck you is not quite accurate. Everyone in hearing was fucked, even the animals. Does a fish hear a pneumatic drill? It's one of those questions. Do birds have tongues? The tank developed a leak. The water seeped out. I'd been gone hours, giving my ears and bones time off. The noble fish lay still on the wet gravel. I was about to give the surveyor fish a name, Danny, and now poor Dan is dead. Some paper holds his head. He looks so peaceful and serene. This makes 1, 5, 7.
Thank you, John. Thank you for that. And our next reader is Andy Egan. Andy works as a researcher, and she specialises in the rights of the child. So to read her poem, would you please welcome Andy Egan.
Thanks very much. Hello, everyone. This is not only my first time to be published with Crannóg, but my first time to read a poem in public. So I'm pretty pumped. I might not survive the next couple of minutes. I guess I'm quite new to writing poetry. I'm in a nice writing group, and a couple of people from the group are here. I'm told that I have a good line in dark and disturbing imagery. I seem to write a lot about, I guess, war and moral complicity, but happily this is not one of those poems. So this poem, in my opinion, as the person who wrote the poem, is about, I guess, the kind of the epic search that we are all involved in as humans for security and contentment. But you can correct me if I'm wrong. And it's called High Tea. If not now, then when precisely is the right time to drink mushroom tea? When finishing touches have been applied with love to wise children and sweet grass comforts the garden. When worth is cut adrift from productivity, the far horizons draw close and we strive no more. When I've danced my last on the pelvic floor, lights dimmed and steps forgotten, with thickened soul and fissured skin, teeth set free, this grip well softened, I will look to the stars, long gone, from the warm face of an unmade bed, to count my ducks with all their blessings, then let them go and boil the kettle.
Thank you, Annie. And our next reader is Barbara Dunn. Barbara is a writer and a visual artist, and she was a finalist in the Desmond O'Grady International Poetry Competition. and she has been published in the Storms Journal, in New Word Order, Drawn to the Light Press, in Howl, New Irish Writing, previously in Crannóg, and in Skylight 47 and elsewhere. So would you welcome, please, Barbara Dunn. Bring it on, right?
Thanks, Doug. Thank you.
Okay.
How are you doing? I am delighted to be here. I am very grateful to be here, and I thank you to the editors of Crannóg for selecting my poem. I would just like to say that the last time I was here, I went up after Kevin Higgins, so I kind of am, yeah, so he's here. I know there's a few ghosts in the room, and this poem in some way relates to it. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the title. It's called From the New World, after Dvorak. Dvorak was a Czech composer, and coincidentally I first actually heard the piece of music, Symphony No. 9, in Prague outside the castle, and I cried. So I'm going to actually hum a couple of bars, so that because it is referenced in it. So I wrote it during the pandemic, and I was thinking about home and what it means. And actually Dvorak wrote this symphony when he was in America, and he was very homesick for Prague, and he actually did go home a few years later. So anyone who doesn't know what it is, this is my da 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 da, going home, going home, I'm just going home. From the New World, after Dvorak. Somewhere there are musicians playing a violin sonata. Notes float among the trees and shrubs, while I pull and tug deep-rooted weeds. Unlucky to be flourishing in this patch of ground I now call home. With clay-clawed hands, I exhume these dandelions and thistles. With tender feet, I step among the flowers. For who knows when I will be plucked from this earth, wrapped like a spring bulb and nestled into the cold earth to the strains of Largo from Symphony No. 9. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you very much for that lovely performance. Our next reader is Finola Cahill, and Finola won the 2023 Waterford Poetry Prize and the 2024 Single Poem Award at Writers' Week. She's been shortlisted widely, including for the Fish Prize, the Bridport Prize, and the Sappho Poetry Prize. So would you welcome, please, Finola Cahill.
Hello. Thank you so much. God, it is lovely to do a Friday night of poems, isn't it? Especially even when the weather is this good. Yeah, and thank you so much to the editors for having me in Crannóg. I really enjoy this journal. I think you do a beautiful job of curating really interesting editions every time. And when I got the email, it'd be like, oh, we'll take a poem. I was like, I'm up in Belfast, and I was like, oh, it's during Kirch. I'll try and come down. I'll work it out or whatever. And but a week afterwards, I got an email to be like, I'd won the Kirch Prize. So Galway has been very good to me this week. And I'm from Mayo, so it like pains me to say that Galway has been good to me. I'm gonna have to do some work on that. Anyway, the poem is, sure, you know when there's something you want to do and you know you shouldn't, but you know it'd be really fun if you did. And that kind of, the little game you play in your head where you're like, I just won't think about it. I won't think about it, and then I won't do it. And it's also kind of about, I remember my grandmother's house best by all of the things I wasn't allowed go near, touch, don't touch that. So the poem's called Leave. Oh, and also it's 14 lines, but I'll say it's not a sonnet because I am difficult like that. So leave well enough alone. My mind feels like the top press with the good delf or a dead person's closet. I keep picking up things I shouldn't. The fox fur, the butter dish, checking smell, texture, the egg cup with the painted violet. It is like sinking. Powdery velvet boots, Christmas lights, novelty cat cake stand. I palm the past and weigh it against my car keys, the pint of milk. Time eats itself. Ironed shirts still hung. You speaking, lips shrugging, my throat almost a locked drawer, almost a cracked dinner plate. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Fiona. And our next reader is Kevin Graham. And Kevin's first collection is called The Lookout Post. And that was published by Gallery Press in 2023. And it was shortlisted for the John Pollard Foundation International Poetry Award. And it won the Southward Debut Poetry Collection Award. And a second collection is forthcoming, I believe. So would you welcome, please, Kevin Graham.
Thank you, Tony. And thanks again to Crannóg. So my voice is a bit hoarse, so hopefully you can hear me. It's great to be here and to hear everyone's contribution to the magazine, particularly just the voices of all the writing is great. So my effort is occasional in the sense that it's set around Easter, and it takes its cue from the bold W.B. Yeats' Easter 1916, and it lifts a couple of things from the proclamation as well. So it's a bit of a rom-com, as you can imagine. So here we go, Easter 2024. Earlier, we stood in Croke Park and turned as a collective towards the flag, its spark, the band's imperative, sounding out the anthem before the throw-in. I turned 15 again, singing Out on the Vean without knowing its meaning on the basketball court of a summer Gaeltacht. Irish men and Irish women. Boys and girls, really, hormones flying through the bloodstream cruelly, afraid what we might do in the light of the Rinke when the sun lowered to catch the burning ochre in the eyes of a beloved. Our deference and weight, allusions to politics. If only they knew the like the system would inherit. Shapeless junkies hooked on power ballads, crooning to the masses for a few limp votes. Earlier, the president laid a wreath and observed a minute's silence. The sky's unseemly blue streaked with contrails from the Air Corps, whose direction couldn't be questioned. Difficult to not despair when terms like brilliant, brave, and courageous are as far as you can get from the civic bourgeoisie. Cowardice and rapine are the trending topics, one's public persona a woven crown of thorns. Speaking of terrible beauty, the Royal Canal sports traffic cones and rat-borne disease. I know this felicity may seem a little OTT, but noticing the toe pads shut with ugly fencing, it's valid to scratch one's head and wonder where it's all going. Days we'd spend in summer with our nerves jangling along the banks, waiting for love to come and tap us on the shoulder. The song plays on, its impetus hanging at the centre of our being, where wings meet a metal gate, their blur a clarion call for living. Leaning over a glass cabinet in Trinity College, Dublin, those dead generations come back to ghost the shadows looking down. Tourists lined up in droves to understand the frown frozen in their brows. Future's lost trajectory is a library steeped in history, so it can be grasped that under her manhood were British Army posters recruiting Irish volunteers. An inquiry from the front, the Gaul. Who plucked the sniper bullet from the wall of knowledge? That supreme hour, felt and unfettered, its pledge unable to be lost. The children of the nation still waiting to learn that April could be August. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. And the next reader is Billy Fenton. Billy writes fiction and poetry, and his poetry has been widely published, including in the Rialto, the Irish Times, Ciphers, Banshee, Poetry Ireland Review, The North, Acumen, Orbis, previously in Crannóg, Abridged, and many others. So would you welcome, please, Billy Fenton.
Thanks, everyone, and particularly thanks to the editors of Crannóg, who have been a great support to many, many writers over the years, and including myself. I really appreciate it. This poem is called Garris, and Garris is actually a beach outside Tramore in County Waterford, and it's probably one of my favourite beaches in Ireland. It's kind of tucked away secretly and quite hard to find. And this poem also has a kind of a mythological element to it, even though there's a true story in it, but it's got a mythological element to it. And it has the Gaelic god of the sea in it called Manannán, who some of you may be familiar with, or Manannán Mac Lir, as his full title is. So this is called Garris. A curve of rock divides the bay. Manannán's teeth, blackened and broken, crack into the underworld. We take to the water near the place where I cut your hair, wiry strands washed over by breaking waves. Two choughs glide past, silky black, red beak and legs, like fresh sparks in the ashes. Thank you.
Thank you, Billy. And our next reader is Arlene Patterson. And Arlene facilitates creative writing workshops for marginalised groups and is currently working towards an MA in creative writing and a first poetry collection. So would you welcome Arlene Patterson?
Thank you. It's so lovely to be here. We drove down from County Down today, which is a long way to come to step out of your comfort zone. I don't usually submit my work. I don't ever submit my work. So it's lovely to be accepted by Crannóg, a publication that I really love. I also don't write sonnets. And with that said, here's a sonnet. I don't know where it came from, but I'm glad it's found a home. It's called Petty King. Before they dug him out, they said a prayer above the tangled wreath of root and gut and soft red fronds that might have been his hair or lichen running through his throat's short cut. In seams of silt and ancient sills of schist, below the bridal sway of cotton froth, 3 small blue beads inside his leather fist. The old king rises, wrapped in peat brown cloth. His wedding night still stains his mouth like wine. A wild-eyed forfeit offered up to pay for fly-agaric dreams of the divine. We do not know how lonely long he lay, halfway between believing and belief, The bog lies like a lover through his teeth.
Thank you very much, Arlene, for that. We're back to fiction with our next reader, and she is Anouk Kupiec, and she's a writer and multimedia artist. Her illustrations have been featured in the literary journal Leopard Skin and Amp Limes, and many of her poems have been presented at the Federal Agency for Political Education in Mans, I think you pronounce that city, as part of a German-Ukrainian art project. So to read her story, or from her story, would you welcome Anouk Kupiec.
All right, can everybody hear me? Yeah. Perfect. Thank you very much for inviting me to this reading. Thank you to the editorial team. This is actually my first proper publication and reading, so I'm a little bit excited. I hope I'll still be understandable. Thank you very much. So I'm going to read a quick excerpt from my short story, A Comparative Anatomy of Angels. I didn't actually mean to cause the end of the world this time, if that counts for anything. After the first few times, I've almost gotten used to it. The quiet cities, the gleaming cars parked in neat lines along the roads, the empty prams in front of abandoned houses. But the drones passing by overhead with loud mechanical whirring sounds are starting to freak me out more than I'd like to admit. Someone has been following you. You've seen her a few times now, creeping across rooftops and through hallways, always disappearing out of sight as soon as he tried to get closer. She's not supposed to be here. No one is. Frankfurt was on fire when you left it, and you still remember the morning you woke up in Naples to find the city empty. But after a while, the feather-light footsteps circling you when you try to sleep at night behind barricaded doors and shuttered windows seem almost comforting. When you wake up to find her in your room, staring at an angel mural plastered across the front of the building on the other side of the street, you know you're in deep shit. Fucking knew I shouldn't have gone back to Berlin. Ava, as she introduces herself, speaks with a nasal accent that sounds like it's stuck somewhere halfway between French and Polish and can't be much older than 15 or 16, although a shaved off hair makes her look a little bit older. I wasn't there when it happened, Ava says one evening, sounding strangely ashamed. She doesn't say where she was, instead, but you suppose it doesn't really matter. You weren't really there either. Your Polish is terrible and she seems to prefer not talking at all, so you end up communicating in a strange mishmash of languages and gestures, if at all. I still don't understand why you're following me, you say one evening, when the constant silence is starting to get on your nerves again. She looks at the window, then lowers the blinds. You have a problem, yes? She asks quietly, voice rough from disuse. You go to city and the city goes... Hand flaps in a vague imitation of an explosion. It started in Utrecht of all places. I spent every summer there since I was 6 years old, and one morning I woke up to see the word Kinderen plastered across the walls of my hotel and found the city deadly silent. A drone was by outside, the sound eerily loud. Ava hesitates, indecisive, flicking her fingers in a nervous gesture. I have, how you say, similar problem, yes? Every city I go to, everyone's gone. She pauses. But somebody comes, follows, after a while. In Gdansk, it had started a day later than usual. I'd learned not to get my hopes up since I left most of the Netherlands flooded, but still it had been disappointing to wake up and find the hostel completely cleared out. She perks up. But I have theory. For you it happens after you arrive somewhere, for me it's before. Maybe together we can, cancel each other out? Out of all the things you imagine you'd be doing in a post-apocalyptic scenario, babysitting a 15-year-old who eats up Pilmanian tea kettles, you knew your tea tasted funny this morning, was not among them, but it probably doesn't make much of a difference anymore. Fine, pack your stuff, we're leaving tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Anouk, and congratulations on your first publication. Crannóg has published many people for the first time over the years, and many of them have gone on to greater things, publishing novels and full collections and that kind of thing. And our next reader is also a fiction writer. Phil Cummins is a writer of fiction and creative non-fiction, It's been published previously in Crannóg in Fictive Dream, Sans, Press, Biostories, Solstice, and elsewhere. His work has been placed in several competitions, including the Fish Memoir Prize, the Wild Atlantic Writing Awards, the Fish Short Story Prize, and in Write by the Sea. So would you welcome, please, Phil Cummins.
Here then. There you go. So as you've seen from your programme, I'm not Dolores Walsh. Okay. Although I have read her biography at the back and it's jaw-dropping. I wish I had it, so I have to do a good job here. Anyway, thanks to Crannóg for organising this. It's lovely to be speaking here again. Coincidentally, the last time I spoke here, I was second last speaking, so a pattern is starting to emerge here. Okay, and it means following an awful lot of hard acts here today. The talent here has been absolutely extraordinary this evening, so I hope I live up to it. Okay, non-standard. Cheeky little fecker. What's this wee nonsense? Rereading the email, he never ceased to wonder at the out-and-out brazenness of some students. Dear Professor Gilmore, the university has informed me that I am to be deregistered and must now withdraw from the degree programme because of my failing maths grades. As my course director, I need to meet with you as a matter of urgency to discuss how we are going to deal with this. Oh, sent from my iPhone. Alan Gilmore heaped a palmful of aspirin into his mouth, sending a lukewarm slug of coffee in after them as he savoured the bitter smack on his tongue, jazz softly riffing from the battered radio next to his computer. Grey-haired, jowly, morose, the eyes hanging out of his head, he drew in a long, deep breath and exhaled, massaging the bridge of his nose between forefinger and thumb. We're not dealing with anything, mate, he grumbled, returning his gaze to the screen. Sure, you're the idiot who failed. And just how the bloody hell am I supposed to know who O is anyway? Try as he might, he couldn't put a face to the email address. His head was all over the place, his thoughts jammed up like an M50 tailback. An image materialized in the throbbing space behind his eyes of some lazy, entitled tosser, an Orlando or a Nusheen, sprawled languidly along the length of a soft sofa, in t-shirt and sweats, with Matt's book open in his lap, whilst texting away to his classmates about that miserable wanker of a lecturer. Not a pen, calculator, or notepad in sight, bare feet perched up on the radiator and head lolling back into the deep, comfy folds of the cushion. With eyes occasionally glazing over, his earbuds vibrated tinily against his eardrums. The little git would be oblivious to the world, the equations on the page about as remote as an alternate universe. Mathematics is an exacting endeavour, Gilmore had patiently lectured his students, one that demands absolute attention to detail. But when it came to his beloved subject, he felt that most of them these days had abandoned themselves to mediocrity. Whoever put the M in STEM never tried teaching maths to this shower, chirped Bradshaw, drawing raucous hoots of laughter from around their lunch table only weeks earlier. Gilmore included. Fuck's sake, Alan, he muttered grimly as this last thought flashed through his sleep-deprived brain. When did you become so damn cynical? Sighing, he tapped out a brief reply confirming for 2 o'clock before leaning back and entrusting his headache to the therapeutic thrum of Charlie Hayden's double bass. Come in, Gilmore boomed. Oliver Prendergast was late. He bustled into the office at 2:15, an overstuffed satchel hanging from his broad shoulder and a well-thumbed novel tucked under his damp armpit, and plunked himself down. An awkward, hefty, moon-faced yoke, plain as porridge. He had a clatter of bright pimples scattered poppy-like across his pale, chubby cheeks, and a spiky brown fuzz on his upper lip that could have been usefully introduced to a disposable razor. Gilmore turned around from his computer, fully prepared to berate his young visitor's tardiness, when his gaze fell upon the hat. It was an all too familiar, jet-black, wide-brimmed fedora perched at a jaunty angle on Prendergast's round, puddingy head. Gilmore groaned inwardly. He immediately recalled the first time he'd spotted that hat in his lecture hall, its wearer always sitting in the front row, utterly engrossed in that very same doorstopper of a sci-fi novel, humming away unself-consciously to himself and occasionally scribbling little doodles into the margins of his book, seemingly unaware of the quarantine zone of empty seats around him or of the lesson unfolding before him. He'd initially tried to engage Prendergast by asking him up to the blackboard to complete a maths problem, only for the lad to promptly seal up like a clam, his panicky face flushing wetly. Stubbornly snubbing the proffered chalk, his eyes had refused to meet Gilmore's, choosing instead to focus on some spot just over his right shoulder, as if silently communing with his shadow. Gilmore decided it best to move on and recruit a more willing volunteer. Detaining him some weeks later, Gilmore inquired, "So how are you finding the course? Attempted any of the sample problems yet?" "Yes," came Prendergast's soft reply, his lumpish frame awkwardly hugging his battered novel to his chest like a shield. "And?" Gilmore continued, eyebrows raised in hopeful anticipation. But Prendergast seemed averse to making eye contact or to elaborating beyond basic monosyllabic answers. Gilmore's ensuing questions simply rolling off him like water over a stone. He decided to change tack. "So tell me, Oliver, isn't it? What's the book?" Prendergast appeared to brighten up. "House of Leaves," he replied. "It's one of my favourite books. I've read it 9 times. Have you ever read it?" Gilmore replied that he had not. "I don't suppose there's any maths in it?" he then asked. Clearly immune to sarcasm, Prendergast simply nodded and continued on his way. "What's going on inside that head of yours?" Gilmore wondered as he watched the lad walk away. And over the next 2 years, Gilmore caught regular glimpses of that hat around the campus, its wearer always seeming to be on the periphery of things, attempting to osmose into the student body and take on the colour of belonging. But Prendergast was invariably regarded by students and staff alike as something of an oddity, an other. Not the end.
Very good. Thank you very much, Phil, for that. And our last reader of the evening, and thank you very much for waiting till the end, is Annie Depp. Annie is the author of 3 books of poems, and her most recent collection is called Night Collage, and that was published by Ireland House in 2021. So would you give a big welcome to our last reader, Annie Depp.
Hello, everybody. I hope that the editorial staff of Crannóg has heard the people, everybody here tonight, speak with appreciation of how much it means to be here, how much it has. You have given quite a gift to this city and to the literary life of Ireland and on beyond. I grew up in the States and moved here about 25 years ago. I went to university in the States, and one of the highlights of that time was getting to go on foreign study, studying abroad for a semester, and I got to go to London, and it was a joy. Ted and I were talking at supper time about one of our favorite film directors, Krzysztof Kieślowski, and how much he loves to explore the different lives that a character could live. This is called foreign study. There are lots of things you can learn on foreign study. Foreign study. Who was she? 50 years later, I remember traveling back across London to Crouch End and Mrs. Catania's rented rooms. It was evening as the bus vibrated to a stop at the edge of a park to let a young woman slowly descend. Her pale face was lit by neon. Rain darkened her hair, a thin coat pulled tight against the damp. Beneath her arm, a large art portfolio. Earlier, the professor of my drama course propositioned me in the hall as the other students waited beyond closed doors. He was in his 40s with a florid face. And even as I turned him down, I wondered if I would still pass his class. How inappropriate, he said, of my plan to hike the Isle of Skye with my boyfriend. The bus rumbled to life as the young woman stepped back and then walked away into the night. She was limping, and already it was too late to follow her. Or for reasons I'm trying tonight to understand, to forget her. To the lighthouse lay in my lap, just begun. Her departure, something like a strong red line down the middle of a page. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Annie, for that. And thank you for those kind words. But we're only one cog in the wheel of the magazine, really. Without all the contributors, there would, of course, be no magazine at all. So it's thanks to them as well. And indeed, thanks to all the people who submit. We can only publish about 5% of the submissions that we get. But they say that the more submissions you get, the better the final outcome is in the magazine. So we're indebted to everybody who submits for that reason. I'd just like to congratulate Paddy Moran, who is the recipient of the Crannóg bursary for this issue 62. The Crannóg bursary is worth €1,500 and is offered to one contributor to each issue of Crannóg. The way it works is every contributor, everybody who's in the magazine, is invited then to apply for the bursary. And the recipient is judged on that application, not on their work in the magazine, but on the subsequent application. And for this issue 62, the recipient is Paddy Moran. And we'd like to thank Marion Kilcoyne, who has generously sponsored the Crannóg bursary from issue to issue. I'd just like to announce our Forward Prize nominees as well for the year past. The Forward Prize goes from March to March each year. So it takes in Crannóg 61, previous one, and then Crannóg 60 before that. And the three nominees are Kevin Graham, whom you met earlier, for his poem in Crannóg 60, To an Old Friend. And also from Crannóg 60 was Linda Upper for her poem Argus Dreamed. And from Crannóg 61, the nominee was Bobby Sparrow for her poem How to Let a Wild Thing Go. So congratulations to all of those people. Thank you all for coming. Thanks to all the readers. Thanks to the Crane for once again hosting us since we were working out earlier, since 2003. They have hosted all the launches here, 22 years now. So yeah. Thanks to Silent Cinema, who've been working there, videoing the whole proceedings, which will be up on our YouTube channel shortly. Thanks to Ger and Charlotte down here, my fellow editors, who've been busily selling Crannóg. Thanks to the cover artist. People have been remarking on the cover art. It's called Growth, which is suitable for the time of year. And the artist is Blake McCrane Corcoran, an illustrator from Dublin. So thanks to him. I want to say a special thanks to Sandra Bunting, who has left her role in Crannóg and is going on to pursue other literary endeavours in Canada. And we want to thank her for her input to Crannóg over many, many years. And we wish her all the best in her new pursuits as she goes upwards and onwards, I'm sure. So again, thank you all for coming. And we're going downstairs afterwards.
There's no room downstairs. You're welcome.
Oh, we can't go downstairs, sorry. We have to stay here. Yeah, as I say, you don't have to go home, but you can stay here. We can stay here, yeah. Okay, so that's even better. Yeah, we don't have to move at all. Okay, so thank you all very much. You've been a great audience and really enjoy the evening. Thank you all.